Hello, thank you for joining A Framer's Touch for our happy hour. Today we will be talking to a local artist, Patricia Cochran. Hi,
Hi,
Patricia.
hi, Kristen. Nice to join you.
Cheers.
Cheers to you too. I hope this is happy.
It is. Well, anytime we can have some social contact via, even if it is online,
Right.
it's great. And it's a nice opportunity for us to sit down, have a little cocktail, and get to know each other better.
Great. I'm really pleased to be here.
Well, thank you. I got to know you through my manager, Emma Weber, at work. You used to be she used to be one of your students.
She was. I had her for all 4 years at Century High School.
Well, and to back up for our viewers, you are a retired art teacher through Century High School in Hillsborough.
That's correct. I actually had the privilege and excitement of opening Century High School and was on the planning team. So stood on the slab where the art room eventually became, and then spent 10 wonderful years in the art department. And they were just marvelous, magical years.
How lucky for you to be on the planning team and visualize the future of it, and then actually participate in that for your career. That's really wonderful.
It's one of those things that you don't get very often, and we really were able to make art become an integral part of that building. We had art hanging in the halls by the second day that the building opened, and I don't think there's probably ever been a day since that artwork has not hung in the halls, and it doesn't get destroyed. It's just woven into the whole fabric and culture of the building, and that's just been a wonderful experience.
Wonderful. So when did you realize the power of art?
I tell kids that your piece people don't have to like your piece, but if they're walking down the hall and they stop and go, whoa, what was that artist thinking of? You know what? The power of being able to stop someone in their tracks and have them respond, maybe not in a positive way. And for me, when I was 5, I drew this little picture of this woman on TV. Her name was Wanda, and she was a little witch. And it sounds really odd now. This is up in the Seattle area. And it was, she would sing this little song and read stories to us. And so I drew a picture of her, and my mom must have thought it was cool. So she mailed it in. And then a couple days later, there was my piece on TV. Wanda held up my drawing and said, Patty Cochran sent this to me, and I think it looks, rather like me, don't you? And I was like, oh my gosh, and of course then people called my mom up to say, we saw Patty's drawing on TV, and I was just kind of blown away how excited everyone got because I'd drawn Wanda.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, tell our viewers here a little bit, because I know you work in a lot of different mediums of art. Can you talk a little bit about the different mediums and perhaps which medium you favor?
Being an art teacher for years, whatever my students were doing, whether it was copper enameling or printmaking, whatever they were doing, that's what I would work in, because just in going back and working in that, it would just bring to mind, oh, I got to remember to tell them that this is like this little technique you can use. And then I would work in class too. Well, the kids were working, and they'd come by and say, how did you do that? And so that was, I've done lots of different kinds of art because of that. I've kind of narrowed my focus down. I used to draw a lot in pen and ink and pencils, colored pencils, but in the last, probably 15 years, I'm mostly acrylics and watercolors. And then about 11 years ago, for a show, just kind of on a whim, made some little 3D figures. I didn't know what to call them. So I ended up
Guardian angels?
Guardian relics.
Guardian relics. That's good. I like that. So do you have anything? I see that you have a beautiful hawk over your shoulder there. Do you have any art? Oh, there's some. Okay.
there's some guardians hanging here on the wall.
Oh,
I'll get a couple for close-ups. So I have been doing this since 2011, and I think I'm at 437 that I've created. I do around 50 a year. So this is one
oh
here.
my goodness. Hold on. Let me get the screen a little bit bigger here. Wow. She's beautiful. She's got little feathers coming out.
This is a little feather. This was actually done for a friend and who has since passed away. And then it came back to me from her estate. And this was a feather of her little favorite chicken, Nigella, who died. It was so sad. And little, you have little freshwater shells down here and poppy seed arms, a duck feather up here, and some little beaded bodice. And then this one is one of mine that, get it back a little bit.
Oh, it looks like it has a Native American feel to it.
Most of them have tended to go more that way. And I've actually got a couple of galleries that are the Native Expressions Gallery up in Sequim, Washington, sells a lot of these. So these have pheasant arms, Oregon sunstones for chips of that for the headdress. This is badger fur from a badger that my brother sent me. And then Western alder cones down here at the bottom. And this is Pendleton wool. This particular one's called Trailhead. And so I have about probably 15 different types of Pendletons that I use. And they're like $25 an inch or something crazy. They're really big, but they're wonderful fabrics to work with. So I've found that bouncing back and forth between painting and working three-dimensionally kind of keeps me fresh in both areas. So if I get really kind of tired and bogged down in my painting, I'll switch over and make some guardians. And then when I get tired of that, I'll clean off my desk, and because I'm messy when I'm making them, and then I'll go back and paint again. So it's a good balance to each other and kind of keeps me fresh. At least I feel that way.
You know, it's been interesting since I started this happy hour series. I forget how many artists I've interviewed, about 10. And what I have really taken away that made me feel so much better, because I thought I am probably a bit scatterbrained, but I have a hard time. And if I get maybe a little stressed or something, I change directions and do something else for a while, and then I circle back. But I'm learning by talking to all the artists, it's more than that. It helps the creative process, because I feel that when you're working on something and perhaps you get bogged down, like you said, if you allow yourself a bit of a break, that creativity, you're probably constantly thinking about it subconsciously. Yep. And then you can come back to it at a much fresher. And I
think that's really true. And, sometimes kids would just get bogged down on something and just be like, I can't. I'd say, stop, just put it away, work on something else. A lot of times we'd have maybe 2 or 3 things going at once. And then there'd have to be a due date, like, okay, grades are due. We've got to get, these things all finished up here. But but that's, I think that there is. And I do think we don't give enough credence to how our subconscious just kind of in the background keeps working on a problem. But then also, having said that, I've got a painting that's 2 years old and I still haven't figured out what I'm going to do with it. And I don't know, I haven't given up on it yet, but I'm thinking, well, maybe my subconscious doesn't know what it's doing anymore.
Oh, it'll come. If you're like me, you'll wake up at like 2 o'clock in the morning with this aha moment, and then you'll have to get up and start working on it, because you'll be afraid if you fall back to sleep, you wake up in the morning and forget what that aha moment was.
Post-it notes. So
yes. I understand that you live out on a farm and you raise Welsh ponies?
That's right. I've been raising Welsh ponies since 1986. And have shown them. My girls rode them. I've been on the board of directors for the Welsh Pony and Cob Society of America, and I'm a judge for the society and have traveled around the country judging pony shows. And it's just been one of my true delights and love of life to be involved with these ponies. They're just beautiful, beautiful creatures, and they still just charm my heart and show up quite frequently in my artwork.
Yeah. Well, I can feel that. I grew up with horses. I had a Morgan, and she was amazing. I don't think there is anything a Morgan can't do. She was so versatile. I did dressage, I did jumping, equestrian. Yeah, we did a lot with her, and I wish that could still be a part of my life, but there's only so much, so many hours in the day and so many times. So maybe someday I'll get back to that.
This is true. This is true. And it's, yeah, it's finding the time to paint when, or should you be out working with the horses, and, you know, thank goodness for retirement.
Yeah, there you go. So I know that you teach a little bit online through some Zoom classes. So right. How are you going about advertising for that? How can our viewers find you, or can they sign up for one of your classes?
Oh, I don't know. That's a really hard question. I've just kept it to these 5 little families and the grandkids, because I felt so bad for these parents that are trying to work from home and, you know, do homeschooling, and they're so conscientious. And I just thought, well, you know, gosh, I know how to teach art. And I think I still do. So I just started doing a weekly Zoom class for these little, these grade school kids, and they're pre-kindergarten up through, I think 11 is the oldest. And yeah, we just have fun. It's not something I'm doing officially.
Okay. Well, you keep us posted on that. We don't want to spend too much of your time on there. If we can close out, can you think of one inspirational thing or saying for somebody who might be interested in trying out art or experiencing it? Do you have a little tidbit of advice for that person?
I would just say, have fun. We get really hung up on it needs to be perfect, or it needs to look like this, whatever it is that I'm painting. And, you know, my analogy is I was the worst piano player ever. I mean, clunky, terrible, but I still love to sit down and make chords because it just sounded pretty. And if you like putting paint down and mixing those colors and letting them flow in together, don't say, oh, I'm not, you know, I can't do art. Because everybody can, you know, if you like coloring in those coloring books, do that. I think that that color and the paint, it's so sensuous. It just feeds us. And not to take it too seriously and think, you know, I didn't sit down with the piano and go, well, I want to be Liberace or Rachmaninoff or whoever else, I don't even know, famous. But, and I have to remind myself of that, you know, like I'm not going to sit down and make every piece that's going to be a masterpiece. Just sit down and have fun, and allow yourself to have fun, and remind yourself this is supposed to be fun. And so that would be my advice.
That's well said and very good advice. So Patricia, thank you so much for joining me for our happy hour.
You too. And thank you so much for having me. And I love your shop and everything that you do for Forest Grove. I just can't, I don't think people realize how much you've done, and, you know, putting out supplies during this virus time, and doing the happy hours to keep people connected. So thank you, Kristen.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Well, we will talk soon, hopefully in person. Patricia,
okay.
Take care of yourself. All right.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, thank you so much for joining our happy hour. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I will list some contacts for Patricia so you can reach out to her. She's a phenomenal artist. A Framer's Touch does have a few of her pieces. If you or know somebody you know would like to be a guest on one of our happy hours, please reach out at info@aframerstouch, or we can also be accessible by any of our social media pages. So until next week.